Are you tired of feeling like you're doing everything right, but you're still missing the joy that you crave? Join me in this episode as I sit down with Dr. Tanya Berfield, a women's transformation and empowerment coach, who shares her inspiring journey from unfulfilled to empowered. We'll dive into how self care, communication, and gratitude can transform not only your relationship with others, but also your relationship with yourself. Plus, you'll get a sneak peek into her upcoming Empower Her Self Care Summit and discover practical ways to prioritize your well being. It's time to step into your power and create a life that truly lights you up. Welcome to today's episode of the newly rebranded Happily Ever After. What now? The journey to empowerment, self care, and relationships. Let's dive in. We all grew up watching fairy tales featuring Prince Charming, but not everyone gets the happy ever after they had in their dreams. So, what are you supposed to do when your fairy tale ends? When everything you thought you knew falls apart? Welcome to Happily Ever After, What Now? I'm Kiri Honey, a confident communication coach for women, sharing my own experience after infidelity to help women learn to forgive and find their way forward to a life and relationship they love. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode. We are here talking with Dr. Tanya Berfield. And I am so excited to have her on our show today because, well, one, she was just a lot of fun to talk to. And two, she's got some really cool stuff to share. So thank you, Tanya, for being on my show today. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, I would be happy to. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. I agree. We definitely have great conversations. So I'm excited to see where this one leads us. So like you said, my name is Tanya Berfield. I am a women's transformation and empowerment coach. I basically work with women who feel like they are just not happy with where they're at in life. Maybe they feel stuck. They're just discontent. They know that they've got a calling to do something, but haven't figured out exactly what that is or how to get to it. But they know that they need to be doing something different. And so that's what I'm doing. And I guess I'll just lean in a little bit to like, how did I get there? Because that's very specific. And I got there because I was that person, which is what most of us end up doing. So I have been married for a very long time. My husband and I are coming up on 28 years. So that is a long time to learn a lot about one another for sure. But also we had 3 kids and, all the dogs and the white picket fence and the house and the jobs and all of the things. And I also I'm someone that's very driven by achievement or accomplishment. And so I was trying to figure out, how do I serve myself in a way that is leading to a career and to like the drive that I was referring to. How do I get to that without the guilt and the shame and the discontent that comes with wanting to do something besides be a mom and be a wife and all of the things. And even when I was doing what I feel like was my best, I didn't feel like I was fulfilled and I wasn't happy. And there was even at one point I struggled with postpartum depression, and so that was a really rough period for us. So I went through this like search of my own of, how do I get to a point that I feel happy, because there's no reason. I have all of the things that should make me happy. And I loved all of the things that I was doing. I love my kids. I love my husband, but I didn't feel full. And so how do I do it? So I have enough certifications in so many different modalities that I could probably wallpaper a full room at this point. And at that time I had an associate degree, and went on for a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a doctorate degree, all while my kids were in school. So I juggled all of those things. And towards the end of my doctorate program, I was like, this wasn't it either. Like I'm still not there. This wasn't the thing I was looking for. And I just had this really strong calling to help women who were struggling with that same sort of thing. And it turned out that was the thing that makes me happy. And so just helping women feel a little bit more content, a little bit more full, finding their joy, understanding what is their passion. That is the thing that fills my cup. And so that's how I got here.
Amazing. I could hear in that a lot of like searching for the thing that's going to fix it all, or the thing that,
Right.
you know,
Always trying to
like,
fit. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I feel like that is a constant, like we're constantly looking outward, right?
Mm-hmm.
For, you know, like when I have all the money, then when I
Yes.
when the kids are older, then I'll have
Right.
time for
Right. And
whatever
aren't
and
those
ever.
like rules of manifestation, right? Like you're supposed to manifest what you want, but you don't manifest the feeling of being there. And so you get to that point of having created what it is you're looking for, but then you get there and you don't feel fulfilled. You don't have the joy and the contentment and all of those things that we were just with. That was supposed to be the thing that did it for us, but it wasn't that thing. It was the feeling
Mm.
that we were looking for. So.
So that feels like it leads to a question like, okay, so
Okay.
how do we get that feeling?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what
Yeah.
everyone wants.
Yep.
That's like the key to life right there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, right. And so that's the whole thing of what I do, right? This is about self-care. This is about if you aren't serving yourself, you aren't serving anybody around you. You are not doing it. I work with so many women who are I don't have time for that. I can't take I have kids, you know, depending on the season of life that you're in. I have kids that I have to take care of, kids that have to go to practice. I have to make dinners, I have to do the meal prep, I have to get to the gym. I can't do any of the things that I'm supposed to do to take care of myself. I can't spend hours a day. Nobody needs to spend hours a day on self-care. But the problem is if you are not filling your own cup, if you are not taking care of yourself, you aren't taking care of anybody else either. So you can sit here and tell me that you are, but I guarantee you are not. It's sort of just that double-edged sword of like it by not taking care of yourself, they aren't getting the best of you. Katie Reed is a blogger who I absolutely adore. She wrote about self-care, and one of my favorite sayings, and that is, if you self-care is giving the world the best of you, not the rest of you. And that just lands so, it's just so strongly for me, because that's exactly what's happening if you're not taking care of yourself, is everybody else. It's, you know, it's the airplane analogy where you have to put your own mask on first or else you're going to pass out, and everybody else isn't getting what they need. And so I think a lot of us fool ourselves into believing that I can't do those things and take that time because that's taking away from everyone else or everything else. And instead, what's happening is you're spreading yourself so thin, and you're not then being productive, and you're not showing up with energy, and you're not showing up with happiness and joy. And so really they are getting the rest of you. They're not getting what's best. And so I think that's kind of what brings it back around for me.
Yeah, well, I could just think about, you know, my own story when, you know,
Yeah.
I was expecting so much of my husband. I expected,
Mhm.
you know, him to come home
Mhm.
because I too had postpartum depression, and
Mhm.
things were really bad. Um,
Right.
but I was expecting him to fix it.
Yes.
Like,
We do that, right? Like that's
yeah.
a whole thing in self-care. Like, because I talk about self-care from categories and what I believe are the categories and how you then have to work through those. But, and I think that communication is something that you specialize in, but communication is super important, and it's something that I think that a lot of people do very badly. And
Mm.
because we have this expectation, we just think that other people are going to do for us, or they should know what we need, instead of just being really honest about what it is that I need. But that has to start here. It has to start with me. I have to know what I need so that I
Yeah.
can then communicate that back
Yeah,
out.
well, because
And if we're
so,
not,
so
yeah.
so many people, you don't know what you need. You're like,
Mhm.
who am I? What is
Right.
what is all this
Right.
going on around me?
Uh-huh.
And then we do have that expectation, like, well, maybe he knows what I need. And
He can figure it out.
it's like
Probably not going to
sure,
happen.
surely, because you know, he's seen, like, you know, his family history, and what he's seen in the past and what I've seen in the
Right.
past, and
Right. Yeah. And
it's
we
just
all
like
come from so like we have a story, right? Like our parents had a specific kind of relationship, their parents had a specific kind of relationship. And so we bring that in, and then we create expectations around that, because I think that
Mhm.
expectations is another really big thing that people struggle with, is determining who set your expectations. Is that
Mm.
were they really set for you? Did somebody decide that was what was expected of you, or is that something you've decided that they believe about you? So that's definitely something that I did, is I thought as I was starting this business that people were not going to appreciate it and they weren't going to think very highly of it. And so then I was hiding it. And then when I finally started to share it, it was so celebrated and not at all what I was expecting, because I created that narrative for myself. And I think we do that in a lot of realms.
Yeah, we really do. And what comes up also in my mind is the concept of happy wife, happy life, which
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about in another episode because I can feel that
Mhm.
that's a big one. But it had such a huge impact on me and my expectations going into relationships, that as
That's
well
your whole
as,
expectation.
oh yeah. Yeah, like why does he not just want to make me happy all the time? Right?
Yes. Yes. If
And
you can
so,
find that, you let me know.
oh God. And that was like part of the really fucked up
Yeah.
mindset that I had around this. And also seeing my parents' dynamic as well was a big one
Oh, it
in
impacts
there.
all of us. Yeah.
Mm.
It's fascinating to understand how people operate based on how they were raised and what they saw and what they're not now willing to look at in a different life. Like that could be just fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it is so interesting, and we could talk forever about that.
Just that, right?
Yeah. But let's talk
Mm.
into your relationship. You said that you've
Okay.
been married almost 28 years, which
Yeah.
congratulations, that is
Thank
awesome.
you.
And
Thanks.
we both know that marriages are not rainbows and butterflies and fairy
It totally
tales.
is, all of it.
Right? So I'd love
Yeah.
to hear about, and I'm sure everyone listening would love to hear,
Mhm.
what is something that you have found really challenging in your relationship, and how did you move through that?
Yeah, so that's a super easy one because it's something that was a challenge from the start, and it's something that's still a challenge, and it just has to do with our communication styles. We are very different in our communication styles. I use a lot of words, and I have a lot of feelings, and I like to share my feelings. And my husband does not, and he likes to process and think about before he uses his words, and he's much more limited on the number of words. I think he might have a cap that he hits at the end of the day, and he saves them all and only uses them very sparingly. And so it's not unusual for me to yell, use your words, Berfield, because I need you to say something. It's not unusual for us to have a conversation. And I also process fast and I move fast, but I'm willing to circle back and, have the same conversation a couple of times so that we can always get to the end. And that's not how he operates. He is very much, he's going to process it and he's going to think about it. And so we'll be in a conversation and I'll have moved 3 topics on, like I'm down a completely different road. And then he'll say something and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about right now? And I'll be like, well, that thing that we just were talking about. Well, that was an hour ago. What are you talking about? I am long gone and way past that. So then I have to stop where I have gotten to and come back to where he's at now, because that's where he is processed. And so that has been a struggle. Like I said, early on, it was an issue, and we didn't necessarily recognize it for a long time because we were young and dumb and not necessarily, our goal at that point was to survive what we were managing. But as we've gotten older and a little bit smarter and a little bit more reflective, we've sort of come to terms with, this is something that we have to stop and do on a regular basis, and we have to do our little check-ins and make sure that, are you good with where we're at, or do we have to make some adjustments here? Because if we don't, we're not going to be okay, because it goes back to that same thing where I can't expect him to just meet me where I'm at and know what I need, because I've not shared that, or vice versa, because he again doesn't use a lot of words. So I don't, if I'm not intuiting, is that a word? Like if I'm not like thinking that I know what he is, and just sort of making that up in my own head, and I'm just checking on that, and it might not be the same thing. So that has been probably the most major struggle that we have had on a regular basis.
Yeah, removing those assumptions
Mm. Ugh.
is
And I think I'm really good. So I like to make assumptions because I just understand. I know what you need. I've got it.
and then the reality checks in, you're like, oh,
Mm.
oh.
That wasn't it at all. Sorry, but I missed that completely.
Mm. Yeah. So
Yeah.
communication and being able, I liked how you said that checking
Mhm.
in regularly to make sure that you're on the right page and that
Right.
you're both.
Yeah, and I feel like we're lucky enough that both of us cares about the happiness of the other person, not that we're going to drop everything and like you were saying about expectations that he's just going to please me all of the time. I don't want that. I want him to make sure that he's happy too. But at the end of the day, we care about the success of our marriage, we care about our relationship, we care about the happiness of the other person. And so we're willing to stop and put the time and the effort into that.
Mm.
And we actually, I think it was my mom actually started this years ago when I think it was maybe like our third wedding anniversary. She said to both of us, I'm going to keep, I think we had one kid at the time. I'm going to keep your son overnight. And I think the two of you need to go away and you need to have some time that's just for the two of you. And little did she know that that was going to turn into an annual thing, that she got to have all of the kids at one time. And sometimes it became a weekend or a week, but never ever have we missed. There was one time that we missed, and that's because he was in the hospital, that we missed having an anniversary sort of weekend, or at least an overnight, if nothing else, so that we have that time to just reconnect and make sure that we're walking away, because the kids are a priority, the house is a priority, our work is a priority, but all of that falls apart if we are not connected and we are not communicating and making sure that we are both really happy. And so that from very early in our marriage is something that we have always done and will continue to do.
I love that tradition. I'm just
Yeah,
thinking, so
yeah.
this episode is actually coming out on our ninth wedding anniversary.
Oh, I love that. So my expectation for you is to spend some time together.
Yeah. And I'm like, how can I make that happen? I like that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like really, it's always overnight and never at our house. It's always been one night in a hotel that's maybe semi-local, or it's been a week in Mexico or a week in Jamaica if it's a big anniversary. And that's something that we can swing at that time based on where the kids are at and based on where we're at. So, it's come and gone as to what it is, but it's important just to have that time to connect, and we have fun together better than we do anything else in our life. Like daily responsibilities will make it happen. All of the things that need to be done, they'll sort of happen, but we have fun together and we truly enjoy each other's company and enjoy the same sorts of things. So it's easy to do that for us rather than, oh, it's your turn to pick and I'm not gonna love it. That's actually the thing we look forward to.
See, okay, a couple of things came up just from what you just said. Because I feel like there's a lot of relationships out there where, again, with the expectations, but also that comment, like, you're going to choose and I'm not going to love it. But
Yeah.
that's really just
Better find some common ground, and also it's mindset, right?
yeah, it's a mindset shift, because it's like, well, what if we went into our daily interactions with our spouse actually with loving intention and be like, what if they actually cared? What if they were
Mhm.
actually trying to do something wonderful and we stopped being like
Yeah, I hate
a
that.
dick
I know
about
I
it?
didn't. Yeah, right. I did this actually not very long ago. This is just a really funny example. I was super stressed out and I was like, because we were struggling not very long ago. Let's back it up for a second. So this was a challenge that we had. Maybe what is this? October, almost October. Maybe about 6 months ago, my husband had a heart attack. It was not a great time in our lives. And so we both had some struggle after he was recovering with, like, what does this mean in terms of like our life moving forward, and also like the vulnerability that comes along with almost losing a life and losing your loved one. And so all, working through all of those things. And then I got to the point that I was real mad at him for a couple of things that he was doing and not taking daily responsibilities for, and things that I felt like he was too dependent on me to be doing for him. And so all of a sudden I felt like I was doing everything and he was just sitting back relaxing. That's not quite what was happening, but that's how I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I was like, I just need you to start doing some stuff for me. Like, for once, just do these things. And so I was in the middle of a really stressful period. And I was like, I need you to take care of dinner tonight. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you make it. I don't care if you order it. I don't care if it's a bowl of cereal. I don't care. But I need to not make this decision. I need you to know that when I get home tonight, I'm not the person that's handling this. And he did. And he ordered us dinner. And it was not something I liked. And so I had to really pull back because my immediate reaction was like, how did you not know that I do not like this? We've been married for 28 years. I can order from any restaurant exactly what you're going to love. And you have no idea that I don't like this. And so my immediate reaction was just to be an absolute bitch. And I had to shut your mouth, Tanya. That's not what happens right now. He did the thing you asked him to do. He
Mm-hmm.
just didn't do it as well as you expected him to. But if this is what happened, if you then continue to critique, then he stops doing the things. And so
Mm-hmm.
instead, we're just going to go with it. It happened to have onions and peppers on it, which I hate. So he saw me pulling them off of my plate and then just eating what I could eat of it without gagging it down. And he was like, "Oh, I didn't do that very well. I'm so sorry." I was like, "You know what? You did great. Like this is what I needed. I needed dinner. I got dinner. I pulled out the onions and the peppers, and it's fine. It's fine. I appreciate that you did this for me. Thank you." So it's the mindset. Instead of acting like a jerk and telling him how could he not have, I was able to thank him for what he did do. And then we both walked away happy versus having a fight about it.
Amazing. Love that
Not
story.
easy. Not easy.
No.
Also, I'm a perfectionist and a control freak. So that is super hard for me to do.
Yeah, but think of like how that moment would have been so different.
Right. And also, like, the thing that I'm asking him to do is step up and do things and take responsibility for. And so if my response then is to critique every step of that way, then he's not going to continue to step forward. He's just going to go right back to where he had been before and say, "No, I'm not ordering dinner because you're not going
No,
to like it and you're going to be mad
what's
about
the
it."
what's the point? You're gonna
Right.
whinge about it and I'm gonna get it
Right.
wrong. And so it's the same, it's the
Yeah.
same like we ask our partners to organize date night or whatever, and then
Mhm.
they pick the wrong
Mhm.
restaurant or they buy the wrong whatever. And it's
Yeah.
like, actually look at all
Yeah.
the things that he is doing or they are doing, not the things that
Mhm.
they're not.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
amazing.
I had to also step back because I was having that moment of, I'm doing everything around here. These are all of the things I handle. And then I had to go, yeah, except that I haven't mowed the grass for 28 years and I take the garbage out maybe twice a year. And, I've never shoveled a walk. I live in Pennsylvania. I've never shoveled a walk. Like that's not a thing I do. So then I had to go, okay, except that he is doing these things and you're not even paying attention to those either. And so I had to give him credit for those things.
And
That's not easy
I like to speak into
either.
that in terms of expectations as well, because it's like,
Mhm.
well, actually, if I if you just get rid of expectations and you're like, well, actually, I expect that I am going to have to do everything,
Mhm.
then you start noticing, oh, look at all the things that I'm
Oh,
not having to
oh.
do.
Wow, it got done.
Yeah, and it's like that's where you start to appreciate and acknowledge and also looking at the things like, well, if you want to be more appreciated and valued and all that stuff,
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
how can you show more of
Right.
that? Right?
Right.
Mm.
I think it was maybe about 2 years ago, I had asked a handful of people, like, just give me 10 words that you think of me, that make you think about me. Like, just trying to pull some things and like in terms of my own strengths and skill sets. And my husband actually wrote gratitude and grateful. And I was like, what is that? And it took me a minute. And I actually asked him about it, like, what is that? And he was like, and he said to me, you always make sure that you let me know when you appreciate that I've done something for you. And I didn't realize that I was doing it. And I didn't realize that he needed to hear that or that was affirmation for him. And so that was really powerful, I think, for us too. And then he also leaned into doing some of that. And then from there, I took it out to everybody else because I recognized that when you are grateful for something and you let somebody know that you appreciate something, not only does it lift them up, because you've shared that with them, but it also raises your own vibration and you feel a little bit better about having done that too.
Mhm. On that note, I feel like I don't think it's just me, but maybe it is. that that when you start these kinds of practices,
Mhm.
it feels like it's not worth doing.
Yes,
Like,
that is so true. And
mm,
also it's a stretch, right? Like I don't love gratitude exercises that are like write down, as soon as you wake up in the morning, write down 20 things that you are grateful for, or right before you go to bed, because those become monotonous and it just becomes the same thing that you're not really putting any gratitude into. And sometimes, depending on where your head is at and where your mindset is at and your perspective, it's hard to feel grateful for
Mm.
anything. And so you have to go for the smallest thing. I woke up this morning. I was able to get to work, or to like whatever that one thing was. I had a meal, and sometimes that's not something that everybody gets to be grateful for. Or I have electricity. You struggled with that a little bit before our show based on some things
Yep.
happening around here. And so we're super grateful you have electricity
Mm.
right now. But so you
Mm.
have to start with the things that don't feel very meaningful. But when you then stop and really reflect on what that means to your life and what it would be without that thing, it does become a little bit more powerful. And I find it to be easier for you to start showing it outward. A lot of people have a hard time receiving that. But
Mm. Mhm.
if I'm trying to say it about myself, it's harder for me to do that. But if I am going to show appreciation to you, that is easier, especially for women, because we are such martyrs. And it's like, oh, I love your
Mm.
top. Great. I got it on sale. That's wonderful. Just can I say thank you and just leave it at that, right? Nobody needed to know that I paid $4 for this top.
Yeah.
So I think it's easier, and it can be something as stupid as like someone held the door for you. Smile, look them in the eye, smile at them, and say thank you. That's
Mm.
all it takes, because you just lifted them up, and that whole vibe, your vibe attracts your tribe. So
Mm.
we can delve down the whole hippie woo of energy, and what you put out there, what is what you get back. And so when you start lifting that up, it can be so, so powerful.
Yeah. And yeah, I love all of that. I love a little
I feel
hippie.
like
I
I
love a
really went on
little
a soapbox there.
hippie. I love a
I
little
got
hippie
excited.
woo.
Oh, I love my hippie woo.
Okay. Before we run out of time, I
Mm,
so I love the fact Tanya is doing a summit. That's how we
mm,
met. It is called Empower Her Self-Care. And Tanya, I want to invite you to
yeah.
talk a little bit into that and
Mm,
why why you did the summit, why self-care is so essential. Like we've talked about it
yep.
briefly in bits
Yep.
and pieces, but yeah, take it away.
All right. I got it. Okay, I got it. So here's the thing. Like I said, self-care is sort of my jam, because I believe that if you want to find all of those other pieces in life, what I have found in working with lots of women is that we are martyrs. Like I said earlier,
Mm.
it's so easy for us to just say, I have to take care of everybody else and not take care of ourselves, instead of filling up our own cup and making sure that we are cared for. Because if we are not cared for and we are not nurtured for, you can try to sell me anything in the world. The rest of the things are not going to be okay. So if you want to feel better, if you want to do better, if you want to be better, you have to start with yourself, so that then you can share that out with the rest of the world. And so one of the ways that I do that is through self-care practices. And so I am putting the summit on. It launches on Sunday, the 29th, in the United States. So I think that'll be Monday for you. Is that right?
Mhm.
As you're a day ahead of me.
Which is
Monday
my
for you.
birthday.
Yay, the happy birthday to you. This is my gift to you.
Love it.
Perfect. So what I thought I would do is, my goal in this was a micro summit. It's going to be audio only. I was planning to have 5 or 6 guest speakers that are experts in their area, all of which are women who are working with women in some realm of self-care, but all from a very different viewpoint, with a different lens, all coming from different directions. So there's so many awesome tangibles and takeaways and strategies. Um, what happened though is I ended up with 12 people, so it's not much of a micro summit, because I had so many amazing applications that I think I capped it I stopped counting at 45. More have come in since then. I just couldn't fit any more in, so we landed at 12. We're keeping it at that for now. Maybe we'll do another one down the line. And like I said, all of these women are talking about something in the realm of self-care. So it might be the foundations, whether it's sleep, nutrition, and movement. It might be something along the lines of energy and spirituality, and it might be something along the lines of like time management and setting your priorities and avoiding burnout. There just are so many directions you can go. And every one of these amazing women have shared a free giveaway of some sort. So that might look like a chakra meditation or a mom's busy guide, or a wellness journal or checklist or something, some things along those lines. So no matter who you are, what season of life you're in, mom or not, I'm going to say mostly women, but it'll apply to men as well. No matter who you are and what you're doing, there's something to take here. And it's 100% free. All you have to do is go to the website and register for it with your name and your email address. And on Sunday, I will send an email with a little welcome note and instructions for listening. There is going to be closed captioning on it, so everybody has access to it. And then if it's after, so if you hear this after Sunday, I'm not going to take the registration page down because it's, like I said, it's completely free. I'm not doing a VIP buy-in. It's just there for everyone that wants to have access to it. So as long as the link is still up, and it will be for quite a while, you'll still have access to it. So just go sign up for it.
Amazing. I love that. I love that there's no strings attached.
No strings attached. Not a single one. We're out to help the world. Lift everybody up.
Love that. Okay. Super excited. If you haven't clued in, I am also part of this
Correct.
this summit, and I'm offering my permission to play because that is, again, a lot of the self-care that I have really tapped into. It's taken me a while. It's definitely the thing that I also resist the most, which I'm sure you can relate to as well, Tanya, that the thing that we know we need is the thing that we resist the most. Do you want to speak into that a little bit at all?
Oh, I would love to. I think it was about a year ago, I was just having a really hard time with some things in my life. And I am a meditator. It is my jam. Self-care is my jam. It is the thing that I teach and talk about all the time. And I refused to do it. I just would not do it. I knew it was the thing that I needed to be doing. I just needed to do a little bit of self-care. And I absolutely had to be meditating because that's the thing that resonates for me. And I refused. And so I finally had to get to a point that I had to say, I will not do one more thing outside of work that is not related to my own self-care. I'm going to spend 30 days and I am going to focus on just this thing because this is what I have to do. And so I actually went to a couple of practitioners who were able to help me with some energy work and some other things so that I could let go of some things that were holding me back, because sometimes it's not just about us. Sometimes there are some other things that are getting in our way and we just need some help to do that. Sometimes it's not a one-man show and there's some community work that needs to be done there. So it's an easy thing to resist, but we got to do it.
And on that note, what do you think are the biggest, I guess, roadblocks for women to establish their self-care, to learn to prioritize? Because there's a difference between knowing that we need to do it and having that like spark of awareness and actually prioritizing it. Now, before we hear from Tanya about the 3 roadblocks preventing women from establishing their self-care and preventing them from prioritizing it, if you're tired of waiting for things to be different or waiting for things to magically get better, I invite you to download my free guide, The 5 Keys to Relationship Revival. Reviving relationships can be challenging at the best of times, but knowing what to do when you throw infidelity or any other kind of challenge into the loop, well, that's a whole different story. Learning to rebuild, forgive, and move forward so you can have more love, compassion, and fun, well, that's just darn right hard without the support of someone who's been through it. If you're ready to take action to revive your relationships so you can be heard, understood, and appreciated for the woman that you are, if you're ready to boost your confidence and ability to communicate in a real and empowered way, I invite you to download my free guide at www.kirihoney.com/5habits-free. That's www.kirihoney.com/5habits-freebie. All right, now let's hear what Tanya had to say about the 3 roadblocks preventing women from establishing their self-care and what's preventing them from prioritizing it.
Yeah, so I would say the first thing is I've already talked about, like, no one wants to hear that self-care is important. Like, it's not a cool, sexy, trendy word, but you have to do it. And also, no one wants to hear that you have to take care of yourself first, especially if you are a busy mom, if you're a professional. You don't want to hear that you have to stop doing those other things to take care of you before those other things can be
Mm,
successful. So I think that it doesn't sound fun, but that's your number one cold hard truth. I think the second one is you have to make a choice. This is your choice. Everyone gets to make a choice. And if you don't make the choice, you've made the choice to not make the choice.
mm,
And so,
mhm,
like, one of my favorite sayings is if you don't change it, you choose it. So if
mhm,
you don't decide that you are going to take care of yourself, then you have decided to not take care of yourself, which is another cold hard truth that we don't want to hear. And then the third thing is, which I started to allude to, is I think there's more to the story sometimes. And so sometimes it's not just about you, and sometimes it's about the energy or limiting beliefs or the expectations that were put on you. And, some things could be emotions are stuck, or like I said, those limiting beliefs and things that you need to figure out how to release. And you can't always do that by yourself. And so you might need to work with a healer or a coach or a person that can help you. And it can be in group work, it can be individual work, but you have to work with somebody that can help you move through those things or just see things from a different perspective so that you can get that mindset and the mindfulness in place.
mm. I love all of those. And yes, we all need a bit of a hard truth and a bit of a kick
Mm.
up the butt sometimes.
Yeah, we don't want it. And
Oh,
I'm the first one to say, don't do that. But I'm the first one to say, it's time. I'm ready for that.
mm-hmm.
Mm.
It's like me and exercise.
Yes. Who wants to? But you need to.
Yeah. All right.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much, Tanya, for joining us today. It's been such a great conversation. Always so much fun to talk to you. If you have not registered yet, please make sure that you go and register for the Empower Her Self-Care Summit. All the links that you need will be below where you're watching this video or listening to this audio. And thank you so much for being here. Can't
Oh,
wait.
thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I knew it would be.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thanks so much for joining me for today's episode. As always, may your coffee be hot, your family be happy, and your relationships be fulfilling and fun. Take care. Bye bye.